this meeting. So in addition to the credit count, we also hope that your course materials will be available free of charge to students and accessible on your learning platform. There are conversations among librarians happening regarding centralized resources and perhaps journal subscriptions or other ways for students to access materials, but not every institution has the same type of library resources, and not every student has the ability to purchase texts and things of that nature. The hope is that these are online courses and that synchronous meetings are the norm for the course, or at least make up the bulk of the course study time, is that you're together with students on Zoom in an online environment in real time. And there's a very strong expectation upon students that they are showing up for courses and being active participants in your classes. Something new that we've added is that at least one assignment will involve attendance at or participation in another OSUN event, such as a panel discussion, conference, or speaker series. We know that there are various OSUN programs and initiatives are regularly holding OSUN-wide events on a very diverse range of subjects and topics, and with some very distinguished individuals involved. So we ask you, and we can assist in keeping an eye on the goings-on within OSUN, so that your students can participate and be exposed to yet another initiative happening within the network. And this just also helps with that goal of integration. We do ask that faculty participate in an orientation session and CLASP, Center for Liberal Arts and Sciences Pedagogy workshop prior to the start of term. The orientation, so these are two different things. The orientation session is a bit more technical and an opportunity to know about who's enrolled, how we're enrolling them, some administrative pieces of running a class like this. And the workshops are on strategies for teaching diverse learners in an online environment and in a liberal arts classroom. And finally, see if I can move this bar. Students and faculty will complete OSUN-specific evaluation forms at the end of course. We use these to discover areas we can improve and any gaps we can fill. This is how the tutoring and the remote ambassadors and some of our other pieces emerged from both faculty and student evaluations. A few recommendations to faculty members is to design a course that includes regular low-stakes assignments, teamwork, and active participation on a regular basis. The students in your class will be coming from, as we mentioned, a very, not just diverse geographies, but very different styles of academic preparation and involvement and types of assignments. So certainly starting out in small ways so that it's clear that you and the students are on the same page as far as expectations, and students can get feedback early and regularly. Of course, the syllabus should very explicitly state attendance and grading policies, including as well as any holidays or breaks that your campus will have, because those will not be the same as students are experiencing on their own campus. And that's a conversation that should happen early as far as what expectations you have for students whose own home campus may have a holiday that your campus does not, is not observing. And we will help with daylight savings when that happens, so that people's schedules tend to shift sometimes for a short while, sometimes for the remainder of term. If the syllabus can also include information on how to access support from OSUN tutors and peer ambassadors. Some of that, we have a document we can share with faculty who are selected to teach courses that does include all of that information, and you will meet the other individuals who are heading up those programs. A suggestion is to utilize the blended learning toolkit developed by CLASP and to attend as many of their workshops as possible. There will be one at the start before the start of term, but there are additional ones throughout term, which are very valuable for this context. And finally, of course, to remain flexible and connect with students on a personal level. As we know, we enroll students in a variety of environments, and much of their connectivity and other pieces are beyond their control. So with that in mind, some of the challenges that come with teaching a course like this and are, lead into some of the reasons we do offer a stipend and these different levels of support. You will be working within multiple time zones and academic calendars. Connectivity issues. In the US, that's often because of extreme weather. Some students, it's, crisis or violence is disrupting their ability to log on. And in other cases, students may be living in places where regular internet and electric outages are part of day-to-day life. This does lead at times to unreliable attendance and participation, but I think some of the veteran teachers and faculty on here can speak to ways to keep students engaged even in those circumstances. It's likely students will be working on a variety of devices, phones, tablets, laptops. Not every device can manipulate different software platforms and other pieces with equal ease. It's something to keep in mind. And to, again, go back to the idea of frequent low stakes assignments, having a grading rubric in mind from the beginning that allows assessment of students with different levels of preparation in the subject and experience with a liberal arts classroom. The students do get an orientation on what it means to be in a liberal arts classroom, student-centered learning, but for many, this is a new type of course experience, and being part of the discussion sometimes takes a little while to feel natural for new students. Finally, this is just a quote from a student who took a summer course this year, and you can see that it may have been a new type of classroom environment, and they really enjoyed having the opportunity to have an interactive dialogue with their professors and with the rest of the class. And with that, I will stop my screen share. Thank you. I think we are happy to open things up to questions, or if anyone here, others who've taught courses, wish to share some tips, and I will post a few things in the chat while that's happening.
May I ask a question?
Please do.
Thanks. I'm going to end up proposing, likely with some others, a course in understanding and mitigating climate change, social justice issues related to this, and so on. And it's convenient to have the students do a few laboratory exercises. For example, we've sent people out to measure the temperature in various areas and learn for themselves about urban heat islands. We've sent people out to build solar cookers and see how to use solar energy and things like this. And there's a very modest amount of lab equipment available, or that would be needed, that people may not have, primarily just a Celsius thermometer. Is there a provision to get this, or is this a reasonable expectation?
I think on the one hand, we have some resources to support something like that, what becomes challenging is the ability to sort of physically get any type of materials to students. And I confess, I don't know what it takes to purchase a thermometer.
A few dollars
Yeah,
US.
Yeah, I don't know, Jonathan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, look, I mean, I've visited about 2/3 of OSUN campuses. I feel like it's possible to do that. The earlier we know what those are, the easier it will be to address that issue. We've gotten a lot more complex equipment places. So I would be cautiously optimistic that that is doable and can be acquired. You know, I have used Celsius thermometers on myself in various places. So I feel like we could do that. I wanted to pause for one moment though, because you said something which I want to draw a distinction between two different things, okay? Which is a challenge we're constantly having, which is the OSUN course versus the network collaborative course, all right? And because you said you want to do this with faculty from a variety of other places. So let me just explain the difference between the two so everyone can understand as well as possible. An OSUN course is a course taught by one, or in some cases, two faculty members, normally from the same institution, in which all students are coming together for every class via Zoom, right? Or whatever we're using. So that is one class enrolling students from multiple institutions in it. And a network collaborative class that you would see the same students, you know, more or less every day. A network collaborative class is a course that is going on at multiple institutions at the same time, and in which faculty and students are coming together periodically throughout the semester at strategic times to share ideas, discuss things, comment on each other's work, etc. So that is a discrete class that is offered like at AUCA and BARD and Brock and AUBG, right? All going on at the same time where you're coming together strategically throughout the semester. So I put in the link for the collaborative classes, which is a separate proposal. And these though are what we're talking about today is just this, you know, this OSUN class where like I taught a class this summer and last spring in which I had students from 8 institutions enrolled in the class. All right, so I had students from Brock and Bard Annandale and Bard Berlin and Alquid's Bard and Ashesi and so forth in the same classroom, just so we have a taxonomy clarity. I see, you know, Gurkam, for example, who's taught global citizenship. That is a network collaborative class, right? Separate from an OSUN class. So just that we have our taxonomy right, and we have paths for both. And I will say one last thing. Sometimes there are things which come slightly, you know, between the two, and we're happy to work with you on that. But these are really the two types of things we're talking about.
Thank you. Yeah, it would be likely one other faculty member at my institution and some guest lectures. Thank you.
Right, that is an OSUN class. That's perfect. And then that's what I co-taught my class with a faculty member from BARD. And it made it very helpful, especially with dealing with so many people. So that's great. And do you want to call on people or how? I see 3 hands up.
Yeah, let's see. Sterion Uljevic.
You know, it's a good try, but it's fine. No worries, no worries. Hi everyone, my name is Srđan Uljevic, and I am teaching at American University of Central Asia. I'm based in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. So far I've never taught an OSUN course, and I am actually preparing to submit. However, because it's a new course, unfortunately, I will not meet the September 22 deadline. But still, I'm learning a lot, and I'm definitely working towards developing a new course that I'm hoping to be an awesome course. So I have actually 3 questions. I'm going to just ask 2. The first one is, how detailed does the syllabus need to be? And especially in one aspect that your presentation brought up, and that is one of the expectations is that we need to have either an assessment or students need to either have an assessment, or it needs to be they need to participate in an event from an OSUN network, something like that. I think it was point number 4 on that. So my question is, where can I find information, and if that information is available when I'm writing a syllabus, or does the kind of the draft syllabus that I submit, does it need to include that information?
Right. I don't think it would be possible to include that information because we don't have a full calendar of all of the events that will be occurring during spring yet. I think that's put there as a, something we really expect you to be able to do, but really it's that would be very difficult to know by now or by September 22nd. So I think, something that said, we will, be looking at if there's a course on climate, we do know there will be a big climate event next term. So perhaps tapping into that, but being aware of the OSUN projects that are happening and keeping an eye. So that's something we can help with, but the expectation is not that you're going to have that assignment laid out right now. And I think a good draft syllabus is fine. In some cases, folks may propose version of a course they've taught before, and having that prior syllabus would suffice. If you're developing something new, that's really excellent. And we recognize that you're not going to have everything completely laid out, but to give us a sense of what this course is about and what type of assignments students might be expected. And also very important to be clear about the kind of what we recognize some may be interdisciplinary, but also what sort of discipline or disciplines this might fall within at your home institution, and what level. 100 level courses are very attractive. We have more demand for those than we can sometimes meet, 100 or 200 level. Okay, did you have another?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, the instructions that we've got are really good. But the final question is, and this is really important for me. I've spoken to my boss the other day actually about it, Nicholas Vansley, and I want to ask you here openly. So the information that we received says, and your presentation also mentions, that those faculty members whose courses are going to be selected for next semester spring as part of OSUN, right? That they're going to have to take part in some workshops. And the one that we received the information I'm very curious about is a workshop on good practices, good teaching practice. I think that is the formulation used in the info. So my question is, can a faculty member who is planning to apply for an OSUN course, can she still take part in workshops like the upcoming? Because I'm really, I badly want to take part in these workshops, even though my course is not. I'm not going to meet the deadline right now. So, but
can I say something about that?
This.
Sorry, let me say something about both of these things. We welcome participation in all workshops by almost all people. Rarely are we sold out, and if we're sold out, we will add more ones. Okay, so we want people who are interested in this, and we want to make this possible for you. All of the requirements, I think my biggest message I want to make is that none of the requirements in the form should stop you from applying, all right? You may not have a perfect syllabus. We want enough to get an idea on what that is, okay? You may have an old one. We don't want you to be dissuaded by this, but please understand we're trying to get as much information as we can. So some people have a perfectly done syllabus. It's easy. Give us as much as you can. I would recommend, and I think ultimately I'm your boss at AUCA, if I'm not mistaken. So I would say that, you should submit, you could do things in parallel, right? So in some cases, we're asking to submit to us while you're going through the approval process at your home institution. Some institutions' approval process for next year is done already. Some for next semester is going on now. So at Bard, for example, it goes on, Bard Annandale, it goes on for the next month or so. So we got asked this question yesterday with people here. What we said is submit your thing while it's going on. We will not have a final list of courses up for OSUN for a little bit, and we'll try to make sure they work together. So our encouragement is for a big tent, for you not to be dissuaded, for you to Assume that we work with, you know, VPAAs of various institutions to try to navigate these things. And while not everything is perfect, you know, we do our best to work with you. So I would encourage you to apply, not be dissuaded, and so forth. I wanted to answer a couple more quick questions in the chat, and then I'm gonna have to excuse myself for a second, which is, you know, you can propose, yeah, exactly. Jen responded to that. You can propose a new course in expectation that it will be approved. If you're working with your system, again, I meet with CAOs and VPAAs on a regular basis. If that is going on, then I would reach out to yours and ask them to make sure that this moves forward smoothly and efficiently. All right. So we want to make it so that this works. We don't want you to be overwhelmed by the proposal, because if you have the information, it's great. Whatever you have, we welcome. It's trying to shape our view of what goes on. So you know, so please view this with a big tent and don't be overwhelmed with all of the details.
Thanks, Jonathan. Amadeus?
Yeah, thank you. I'm also at AUCA here in Bishkek. And I've got a quick question based on the course levels. You're saying that 102 level courses are obviously the most popular. Right now I'm teaching a class to our Masters of Arts of Teaching department, which is geared towards people in education, obviously, but I feel like it can be a value add to undergraduates as well. It's already an online format, and like things are ready to go for online teaching and things like that. And so it would fit really easily, really well, really quickly. But my question regards, I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like only available to graduate students in terms of technicality or things like that, but it is registered at AUCA as a master's level course. And so would that be something that we could still provide as a 102 level, 200 level course?
Well, I would say, you know, you could have a 300 or 400 level course proposed. It's not to say that we wouldn't, you know, what we've had in the past is sort of 70 to 80% being 300, 400 level. We'd like to even that out a little bit, but I think a course like that should be at the 300 or 400 level, because students, I imagine, are going to be more successful if they have had a couple of years of college and writing and, you know, critical thinking under their belts. So that would seem perfectly appropriate to peg at a higher level. And what there is there should be prerequisites listed so that it's clear to a student that this course is for me if I have, you know, whatever you do. I would think, you know, have had 4 semesters of college or a university study under already, or have taken some level of whatever, you know, what types of courses you think prepare students for that.
Yeah, okay. I mean, realistically, I feel like really honestly anybody could take the course. It's basically bridging education and sustainable development goals. And so the idea is most of our students are coming in having been teachers and things like that, but aren't aware of sustainable development goals and how they could possibly incorporate that into education, into their already developed curriculum. And so it's more of an introductory course at the master's level, really, is what it turns out to be.
Right. Well, you know, I think include all this, and you know, I would say, you know, to echo Jonathan's statement about the big tent, is in your proposal there is something in the sort of last question. Anything else you want to say? It's fine to put in some questions there. You know, this we had a session like this with Bard faculty yesterday, and you know, this is not like when you're applying for, you know, a national or international grant or something where you hit submit and that's it. We're real people right here on the other end of an email, and this can be a back and forth process. We just need to sort of get it going. So I think you could put some, you know, sort of put that information in there, and we can work with you and colleagues at AUCA. And I don't know if you're connected at all. You must know Tomo, and whether that fits, how this may or may not work with his global education initiative.
Yeah, so that's a class that he and I have developed together. So, okay. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great. Sounds interesting. Felix, you've had your hand up.
Yes, I have two questions. One is you mentioned in passing that some students will connect possibly with their mobiles or tablets or laptops. I have already given two courses with students from the refugee hubs, particularly from the Dadaab refugee camp. And I mean, I had to accept on the first instance that that the students simply, you know, in spite of the fact that there was a plan to bring for them to have laptops, eventually they didn't have. Yet, I mean, I guess my question is it generally admitted in OSUN courses that students can join in a class without having a laptop? I'm saying this because I am, you know, I subscribe to the position that you cannot really take a university course, for example, where you have to do writing without the possibility of, you know, having to make writing assignments in a mobile phone or this kind of thing. And my orientation would be to not admit students that do not have this possibility, and instead, you know, gear efforts to making sure that students who do not have access to laptops should have access to computers or laptops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've raised an excellent question, and we this is something we think a lot about, and this is particularly the case with the students who are studying from a refugee camp. And you know, I think if you want to, that's another piece to put in your proposal is that, you know, ideally students have these resources. We're working on getting more resources to students. And I had a conversation earlier today. It's very difficult because on the one hand, you know, there's an access. These courses can mean a lot to students, but then the ability to actually be an active participant impacts the whole class. So, yeah. And you know, thank you for bringing that up, because I know you've taught courses and it creates real challenges. And it may be that we need to have some deeper conversations with our colleagues who work on the ground with those students as far as how we can better prepare and support them.
My opinion is that you cannot really do the activities if you do not have and you cannot participate in class properly if you do not have the resource for a big screen, generally speaking. So the effort should be directed at making sure people have this. I don't know. Okay, but anyway, the other question is concerning that's at least one of the assignments has to be connected to an OSUN event. I am preparing a course for spring. I'm preparing a course proposal in a field where I believe OSUN does not have, I mean, it's not typically having activities, okay, which is in the field of dementia, disability, healthcare generally. Can I propose this and include a proposal that we in OSUN arrange a panel on the topic or something like this? So, I mean, I can mention this in the syllabus, and then if the course gets accepted, I can support OSUN to organize a panel or whatever. Yeah, certainly. And global public health is sort of an emerging theme within OSUN, and also questions of disability, if it's not explicitly stated, are on the minds of a lot of people. So actually that course sounds excellent and right in line with some of the initiatives and recognition of broadening participation from, you know, people who have been marginalized by disability. And certainly, yeah, so thank you. That sounds great. Any other questions or comments from folks who've taught before? Or I see, Romina, you have a question in the chat. I think you're representing Parami University. And so this is the question of being accredited, so that I think we should talk sort of offline, or we can email.
Sure.
you know, students taking these during the semester, the way we envision this being for a student, and I'll use BARD as an example. Students here generally take 4 classes for a total of 16 US credits. Our courses are 4 credits each. So a student would perhaps be enrolled in 3 courses here on the Annandale campus that are happening in person, and then 1 OSUN course of 3 or 4 credits that they're logging into and taking at one of your institutions. Perhaps you're the faculty member. And then a transcript comes back with credits so that sort of completes their full-time enrollment. And those credits are covered by whatever tuition they're paying and scholarship they're receiving from the home institution. So I think, Romina, we would need to find a way for a course taught by for another institution to potentially host that course. And we'll just have to talk through what that means as far as faculty and approval of who else would need to approve the course if another institution would be offering the credits.
Yeah.
We do this
Okay.
a little bit with the summer courses.
Mhm.
There are sometimes faculty teaching summer courses who are not regular BARD faculty members, so they're appointed for the purpose of teaching one course.
Yeah.
Let's not let
Okay.
that, stop the process, because I think it would be amazing to have your faculty involved.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I've put my email in the chat. Gorkem?
Hello, everyone. I have a question. Can we propose more than one course when the head of the department approves? Is
Yes.
there any limit?
No, propose if you have sort of your home department and university is fine with that. Go ahead and approve 2 courses or more courses, and all or one or some may be selected. Thank you. See what new message in the chat. Yeah, so who's in charge of student admissions? This is a process that we've been managing here in our office at BARD, a small team of us, and I think that Chris will be increasingly involved. The way that we have done this is we use a portal, a kind of enrollment portal application here that students enter. And what we've done is what we expect to be doing for spring is to include something where a student needs to get, the portal will initiate an email to the designated person at the student's home institution. So if this were study abroad, it would be their study abroad advisor or academic advisor. So each institution should nominate or have someone who is in charge of ensuring that the student is eligible to do this. And that person would approve their students. So saying, yes, this small cohort of students are approved to go out and take a course at another institution. That's one step to be sure the student is eligible from their home institution perspective. And then we also work with what we've been working with a dedicated contact at each institution to say, here's a list of 10 students and their home institution and their majors and what year they are who want to take this particular course that you're offering. Do you accept these students? And I think it's varied from course to course and institution to institution, how involved the faculty member teaching the course has been. Here at BARD, we do check in back and forth with the faculty if that's the way they want to do it. Other faculty members have said, give me all the students who are interested. I want. So that is a process that we're still fine tuning, but it is not just a centralized group who are making these decisions for you or for your students at your institution. And then we would expect that this sort of administrative contact, whether it's from your registrar's office or your student mobility office or elsewhere,
is keeping an eye on the course to know that, we'll know how many OSUN students are interested. Someone at your, there needs to be a conversation with the registrar or someone at your institution who's managing enrollment of your own students. And we recognize also that we work within waves of different enrollments and registration cycles, because we know that not all of our institutions follow the same academic calendar. Some enroll students months ahead of the start of the term. Others are doing that weeks ahead of the start of the term. So our goal with spring will be to know that we have, let's say, 12 seats in your class. And if these 3 institutions are enrolling very early, maybe 4 or 6 of those seats can be made available to them. And we want to save some for the institution that's interested, but isn't going to be enrolling their students in a realistic way until later. And if anyone has an idea of how to make that smoother, that would be great. But we're working on ensuring that everyone has access to these courses, that we have a full enrollment, and that we recognize that your institutional timeline matters, because students may just not be thinking about this at the timeline that would be convenient for us here. So it tends to be a little bit loose in the beginning of the term as far as finalizing enrollments sometimes. And there's a few folks here on the call who've been helpful in that. And we do work with, for most of the institutions here, we have a relationship with 1 or 2 people already who are kind of helping this course enrollment process. And we're hoping to kind of firm up and put some new procedures in place with those folks so that it's more transparent for everyone.
Jen, is there anything I could help with? Sorry, I had to take a call.
Right.
Are there any questions where I can be of assistance? Generally not, but if there's
Ernest?
Hi, sorry, I've got a more of a technical question. In your presentation, my Zoom, of course, froze during part of your presentation. But it froze on the slide that I was interested in, where you talk about the resources that are available for an OSUN course. And so one of the things was the TA and for sort of teaching assistants. And I was wondering if there's a little bit more sort of, I guess, technical information about where is the TA located? Is the TA for only OSUN students, or is it for the overall course? So for example, when we have some courses that have 300 plus students on them, if we have OSUN students there, does the TA work for that student? And then also, just getting into UK labor law, we'll pin that for a second, but I'm wondering the logistics of the TA, I guess, if we get a little bit of clarity on that.
Yeah, so the way it has been is that in many cases, it is an undergraduate at the institution who either has taken the course before, has worked with the faculty member before. The faculty usually select this person. And they are available for the course. We generally are not working with the kind of numbers of 300. These courses are usually 20 to 30 students and smaller sometimes. So, and that person, again, usually a student is there to help with the entire course, not just the OSUN students. If you are teaching a course of, hundreds of students and you've got 20 of them are OSUN students, maybe it would make sense to shift that model a little bit. And we also, this summer, we can work on these individuals are paid through your institution, as it were. So we do recognize that the way we do it at BARD is not how it can work everywhere, because the labor law, of course, is an important piece. And in some cases, institutions have their own policies over who can do that type of work and what kind of pay scales exist. And if that's the case, as it may be with your institution, then we can sort of talk about how that might work.
Okay, thank you. That's
Sure.
not all of our classes are 300 plus, some of them, but we're
Yeah.
looking at, we have increasing student numbers in the UK and various institutional levels. And so it's created more pressure. And so getting people on board with this, one of the narratives we're trying to look at is ways in which support exists and how does that sort of work within overall greater sort of pedagogical strategies we're working on with our curriculum. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed your introduction because I was.
Oh, sorry, I'm Ernest Caldwell. I'm at SOAS University of London. So I'm a senior lecturer in Chinese, and then I'm also the associate director for learning and teaching. So I'm in charge of the entire university's curriculum.
Wow, that sounds like a really easy thing.
Yeah.
It's like the worst thing, the worst aspect of being a dean you can think of, but with a fancy title.
Yeah, so we at Bard probably like SOAS like to give titles instead of money. So it's really, but I am just one thing. SOAS is sort of coming into this, which is really good. I've talked to Adam Habib about this. I've talked to some other senior folk there. And one thing I would say to you, and I'll put my email here, if you have questions that we could be of help in terms of navigating this structurally, because each time a new institution comes on, we're navigating again. They have questions we haven't thought of. They have different rules, regulations, etc. Please let us know so we could deal with it on the low and above, just to make sure that we could offer you as much support as possible. You know, the broad message is, I just want to give two quick things, which is these classes are wonderful learning environments, really, really positive feedback from the people who have taught them. And from an OSUN perspective, in which we're seeking to have greater integration amongst faculty and students, having students in the classroom learning with and from each other is a great element of how we're trying to build out OSUN. So in both instances, these are really important. We care about it. Therefore, you know, as we're learning what to do, we started in COVID, in a post-COVID era, which is not really where we are, you know, what it means then. So your advice and insights and questions are welcome so we can help navigate. That's really, we don't claim to have the answers, but we're willing to engage and try to find solutions.
Can I ask another question, I guess, if you don't mind?
Sure.
So I guess another thing, so again, we're coming in late. This is my first OSUN meeting with this. So I apologize for any naivety that I bring to the table. I'm also inundated with, you know, learning the UK system, which I've been doing for 10 years, and it's not easy, having come from the US system. So I guess one thing that a lot of faculty members are talking about when they're interested in doing this and sort of setting up OSUN courses, one of the things they want to know that I don't have the answer for is sort of what is the overall, I guess, curriculum strategy for OSUN courses in terms of when you're doing the review. I looked at the proposal form and there's guidance there, but in terms of overall strategy for coordinating the curriculum, that also influences, you know, lecturer X or professor X thinking my course will fit in with this, or no, they have something that's too similar. So how do you, I guess, as an institution that regulates this, how do you sort of manage that curriculum? And how can I translate that into something that my colleagues will understand and sort of buy into?
This is gonna be the last thing that I say before I go, because I have to run to another meeting. And that's a great question. And answer one is we're figuring this out. Answer two is we have the 9 areas that OSUN specializes in. But what we're also trying to do is we are developing this as a part of other types of initiatives. So initiatives which might focus on public health, or initiatives that focus on civic engagement, or initiatives that focus on human rights. And in some cases, we're developing certificate programs in these areas. So our hope is that, which are micro-credentials offered by OSUN. So our ultimate hope, and this gets to the integration, that this is that these are feeding into systematic curricular things in which we're getting some type of agreement on, and not that every class has to fit those, but if you're saying in a hierarchy of what we are looking at, if they are fitting in with broader initiatives and then the 9 areas, and then what we think is important, that's where that's sort of the hierarchy of consideration. We're still developing those areas, so we're you know, building the airplane as we fly it, but some of them are developing, and that doesn't mean that's all, right? But that is sort of the hierarchy of things that we're thinking of, and we see this as part of that growth. And it's an iterative process, because we also expect that, like, an OSUN course in public health led to a curricular initiative in public health, so it works both ways as well. All right. And we're not so far down the line that there isn't room for experimentation and so forth.
Yeah, and I will mention that one of the themes or initiatives listed is liberal arts and sciences. So, that's very much of a catch-all, and that the types of courses that, we're not looking for are, finance and taxation in country X, or something that is really more, professional sort of education, important, but not broad.
Yeah, thank you. So could I follow up on that just for a second? So that's another question I have, and that I've been asked is I guess the level of specificity. So, I mean, at SOAS, we have, poetry of, the Ur period from 5000 BC to 5002. That's likely too specific, but in terms of regional and sort of country specificity, it seems from everything I've heard and sort of read, you don't want single country based, but regional things are more applicable.
Yeah,
does that
I
make sense?
think
Or global regional, but when you get too far down, it becomes overly specific.
right. I mean, I think, the goal is that these courses are going to be ultimately, useful for a student to meet a requirement of their undergraduate degree. So
Yeah.
in some cases, something that is relatively specific for a history major, is going to be perfect, and also may meet, a humanities, or social science elective for another student. So I don't know if that helps sort of think about
It
it.
does.
And yeah. And the more that, I could imagine something maybe sort of country or regional specific, but perhaps is also taking into consideration a question of that relates to one of the themes, what is public health like in this area, or, arts education, or so, and again, propose and ask questions in the proposal. And this isn't, the door doesn't close to the conversation once you hit submit.
Thank you.
Yeah. This began with sort of Jonathan asking people to teach, and then in the fall of 2020, we were all online, and faculty saying, I'm teaching this class, sure, I'll save 2 or 3 seats, or I have 2 or 3 extra seats. Do you want to enroll someone? And now we're just trying to be more deliberate. And another aspect of this is, student mobility within and across OSUN will be coming. And it's likely that participation in one of these courses at some point during an undergraduate's career is going to be a prerequisite for that ability to earn scholarships to be able to spend time on another campus studying. So that will help. The attrition we may be seeing because people are fatigued with being online and their universities in person may be countered by the fact that these will become attractive as an experience to add to one's sort of OSUN resume and to increase eligibility for other opportunities. Any other?
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Is it? Oh, sorry. Are you supposed to be specific about which other universities outside the home institution?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
you for bringing that up. I did see that you asked a question in the chat. I apologize. So, and this may be related to that. You don't have to be thinking about what other universities. What we have done is open these courses up to OSUN. And on the other hand, not every college or university needs to make every course available to their students. So for example, at Bard, there was a course being open to OSUN students at the American University of Central Asia. It was on, I think, American politics or something that we teach here. And the faculty here said, we'd prefer our students take our course in this instance. So the options for Bard students didn't include that, but they did for students from elsewhere. Just to know that. Are you thinking of a course? So I would say propose the course, even if you are thinking specifically of a couple of institutions and include that in the proposal. This came up yesterday from someone who teaches in the Spanish language and also teaches literature, and was very interested in working with University de los Andes students. So you don't have to know which institutions this might be a good fit for, but if you do, or if you have a project going or a relationship, just include that information. The only sort of follow-on question I would have is that this is envisioned as this type of course and not a network. The network collaborative courses can exist just between two institutions if the goal is really to have the students of only those two institutions engaged with one another in the course, for a specific reason.
Yeah, the idea was to quite intentionally bring together Myanmar and Bangladesh students as a sort of project of collaborating and getting to know each other and, cross-cultural, whatever, for these two countries on purpose, choosing those two countries.
Right, right. But to have it be online and not yeah.
Well,
but you
it
want
seems like
every
the
course
network
to be
collaborative
together.
course, they talk to each other less than in the OSUN
Yes,
courses.
that's right.
So actually, I think an OSUN course might be good.
Yeah, and include that information in the proposal.
Okay.
That hasn't been the way a course has come before, but that, as was said earlier, that doesn't mean it isn't really valuable, and there's strong reasons to, to do that, as opposed to having people from everywhere in there.
Super. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else at all? There's no no bad questions, nothing too small. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. We'll share the recording. Feel free to share the resources I posted with your colleagues and others. And please, if you're just not sure, just submit, err on this. There's no downside. There's no, nothing negative is going to come of this. And we'll be doing this in this next summer and, continually. So thank you for jumping in and thinking about it.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Okay,
everyone. Bye-bye.
you're welcome. Bye-bye. I'll end the meeting.
Take care.
Thank you.